So now that we've sufficiently mulled over the Switch presentation, weighed the strengths and weaknesses of the system, discussed its launch lineup, etc., I'd like to talk a little more about something I was forced to put on the back burner for a bit. That is, of course, or as it's more commonly known, Super Mario Odyssey. No, guys. No, seriously, guys. Guys, Super Mario Odyssey. There is so much to say about this game that I had to give it its own video. I mean, Splatoon 2 is great and all, but I don't think there's any doubt that this is the Switch's biggest exclusive game, that we know about, of course. So let's talk about why it's got me more excited about running around and jumping on guys than I think I've been since Mario first leapt into 3D in 1996. First off, there's the obvious surprise factor. As you might have seen in my video, Nintendo, the kings of left field, click on the card in the corner if you haven't seen it, the company has got this way of never doing what I expect. Again and again they surprise me, even when I think I've got them perfectly figured out. If you know me, you'll know that my favorite 3D Marios are 64 and Sunshine. Funny thing is, I believe that both of those games are decently flawed, and that from a more objective game design standpoint, linear games that focus on pure platforming offer a more pure Mario experience. But 64 and Sunshine aren't my favorites because I think they're the best, but simply because they give me more of what I value in a game. I'm less into that pure platforming and more into freedom, variety, and discovery. Once again, I've got a video about Sunshine that covers a lot of this, so click the card in the corner if you want to check it out. Point is, most people adore 3D World and the Galaxy games, and I can't blame them one bit. That's why I was certain, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that Nintendo was just done with non-linear Mario. The linear games sell well, the vast majority of Mario fans love them, and they're probably easier to make. It's the difference between several teams of designers, each taking concepts and hashing out a bunch of levels and putting them all together in the end, and a large group having to work together to plan out and endlessly refine a larger, more cohesive world. So when I saw that trailer for Odyssey, I couldn't properly process what I was seeing, and when Yoshiaki Koizumi directly referenced 64 and Sunshine and even referred to the game as a sandbox experience, I thought I was dreaming. I thought for one brief moment the universe had shifted and turned an impossible dimensional string into reality just to make me happy. So the initial reveal was fun, but even more exciting info came after the Switch presentation. First, Nintendo gave us this image, and this was awesome. It's like, over the years, Nintendo's just like, here's a game, here's another game, there's a bunch of games, and then we spend so much of our time analyzing those games and fitting them into stylistic categories. So I don't know if this makes much sense, but it really excites me to see Nintendo themselves grouping their own games in such a way. But for the first time, at least to my knowledge, they're acknowledging that, yeah, there are the Explory Marios and the linear Marios. Does that make sense? There's just something satisfying about this. It means they think about this stuff like we do, and they haven't just forgotten or ignored where their series used to be. It means they're not just like, that old stuff, that's not Mario anymore, get over it, never happened. Even better though was this Treehouse video Nintendo put on their YouTube channel. I'll put a link to it down in the description, you should really check it out. In it, Miyamoto gives a lot of great insight into Odyssey's concept and development. The main point was that in recent years, they've been trying to make Mario more accessible to everyone, and in fact, he mentions how they've gone back and forth between the core experiences and the more accessible ones. Once more, this excites me because it's putting words to what we've all observed for years, straight from the horse's mouth. It means that not only is Odyssey heavier on exploration and all that, but it's going to be more challenging as well. This says so much about Nintendo's current mindset heading into a new hardware generation, and that just makes me one gosh darn happy camper. I also had a video talking about the whole mindset thing and how Nintendo's changing for the better, but you can go find it yourself because I'm tired of putting in cards. I'm not your maid. There were other exciting tidbits too. Miyamoto mentioned how despite the fact that people are often too frightened to tell him their ideas, much of the younger staff members brought ideas to Super Mario Odyssey. This is something I wish I'd known about when I made that mindset video because it speaks even more loads in addition to all the other loads that have been spoken about their current design perspective. Nintendo's kinda infamous for their, rigid command structure that ensures that the handful of old guys call all the shots and come up with all the ideas, and the young people have to stay quiet and do what they say. So hearing Miyamoto say this makes me even more confident that Odyssey will bring a lot of fresh stuff to the table, and Mario needs to stay fresh to stay alive. That's why he uses Old Spice. One more cool thing he said in the Treehouse video was that the Wii's lack of a second analog stick made camera control harder, which largely influenced the change back to a more linear Mario with the Galaxy games. The Wii U has a second stick, so 3D World could have had camera control, but based on the other stuff he said about accessibility, it sounds like achieving a smooth, single-screen, 4-player experience was the priority there. So the fact that the Switch is well-suited for single-player and has a second stick was a big reason they returned to the whole open-world format, and I just thought that was really interesting. But speaking of freshness and new ideas again, let's talk about another big aspect of Super Mario Odyssey that I am beyond psyched about. It looks weird. It looks really weird, and believe me, I mean that in a very, very good way. I mean, look at this. What's the first thing we see in the trailer? Mario is in a realistic city with humans, normal-looking humans. This is the kind of Nintendo curveball that makes me fall in love with them all over again. It's an idea that I would have never come up with, and if you told me about it without showing me the trailer, I would have thought it was pretty dumb. But in the context of the rest of the trailer, it's bizarrely genius. It's so weird, and I love it. And even beyond the city thing, the game just looks like the most strange and creative Mario ever. You know that feeling when you went from Paper Mario Thousand Year Door and Super Paper Mario with all their weird characters and creatures and races and locales to Sticker Star with all its none of that? This is like that feeling in reverse. 3D World was fun, but it didn't have a ton going for it in the visual, creative design sense. Much like Sticker Star, it was a little vanilla. It largely focused on old baddies and themes, of course with a few nice exceptions, unlike Sticker Star. But Super Mario Odyssey is just like, what is that? What was all that? Where is he? Mario's walking through gigantic trees and riding a sphinx lion through a desert with a giant upside-down pyramid in the air and carrying stuff around a weird polygonal soup world, and even the controls and animations just have a very different and strange feel. In nearly every frame of the trailer, we see stuff Mario's never encountered before. Enemies and environments and even pickups. What are these things? I don't know, but I know I want to grab all of them. Then who are those bunny guys? Why are they bunny guys and not, say, Koopalings? This is that variety I was talking about, and it's an enormous draw for me. Knowing a Mario game will be fun is often enough for me to want to play it, but this kind of creativity makes me ravenous. I can not wait to explore and discover all the weird stuff the designers came up with. I can't throw money at Nintendo fast enough. It's like waiting to get a present that you know will have 1,000 more presents inside. Then tied in with the creativity thing is atmosphere and scope. Oh, what's that? Those are two things that Arlos think are really, really important and can vastly improve their experiences with a game? Well, isn't that fortuitous? Really though, this game doesn't just look fun, it looks epic. That forest is all eerie and mystical, that desert looks bizarre, all the rainy rooftop stuff is like a Mario action movie. And the shot with the giant robot monster where Mario falls away from the top of the tower in the pouring rain? I seriously get chills every time I watch that. This is not the Mario I'm used to. This is a Mario I could have only dreamed of. And while I'm not going to get my hopes up in the story department, this is Mario, not Metal Gear Solid, and I doubt that will change anytime soon, we can see that at the very least Bowser's got some plan involving his fancy suit and hat, and there's a whole thing with Mario losing his hat and finding another one with eyes or something, I don't know. And as I said in my Sunshine video, it doesn't take much for me to be satisfied with the Mario story. It just has to be something more than Bowser took Peach, go after him. Even if Odyssey ends up being relatively simple in this regard, it already looks like it might at least have that something extra I'm looking for. I will say that I'm hoping for some dialogue, though my bet is that it'll all be purely visual like in 3D World, but hey, we'll have to wait and see. Fingers crossed, because even a few dialogue exchanges make it feel more like an epic story and less like an old-timey Mickey Mouse cartoon. After how cool and awesome and amazing the game looks, probably the only other thing to mention is Mario's new hat ability. So far, all we can tell is that Mario chucks his hat in front of him and it hovers there for a second. If he's at ground level and runs into it, it bounces him up into the air. Similarly, if he jumps on top of it, he can bounce forward, effectively lengthening his jumping distance. At this mere glance, I can't honestly say I know how this will change how Mario interacts with the world. Bouncing from the ground is merely a replacement for plain old jumping, which is simpler and easier, and lengthening his jump doesn't do much more than justify bigger gaps between platforms. I guess I'm just saying that I'm curious to see how else it will function as a mechanic, because I'm having a hard time thinking of possibilities on my own. It could end up altering how the game is played, as Flood did in Sunshine, or it could just be a nice platforming convenience to help change things up a smidge. The folks at Nintendo are great at taking a mechanic and squeezing every bit of potential out of it though, so whatever they've got planned, I'm sure it's gonna make me go, whoa, that's clever, like every 4 seconds. If I have one tiny worry about the game, it's that while each individual area looks like a big open sandbox, I have some doubts that each one will be connected to the overworld a la 64 and Sunshine. The trailer didn't make the realistic city seem like a hub world per se, even though it was the area most prominently shown off and seemed to lack baddies and obstacles, at least during the daytime, non-rainy parts. Mostly I'm worried about it though because of that airship kind of deal Mario was flying around in. It makes it look like to get to a new area you just gotta fly there, which I'll admit could be handled in a few different ways. I'd be a bit bummed if to get to each place you just pick it from a list or even a world map and fly straight there. Better would be discovering coordinates or whatever for new areas in different parts of the city, or wherever the hub world ends up being, if there is indeed one. But what I want the most, though, is true 64 and Sunshine style, where you never really know when or where you're gonna find a new level. Flying around to some places is fine, but I also want to discover them while poking around behind buildings and in the sewer and whatnot. Exploring individual areas has always been fun, but 64 in particular made finding the levels themselves a part of that whole exploration thing. Everywhere you go in Peach's Castle, you'll stumble into small 1 or 2 star areas and gigantic worlds alike. We really don't know enough about the airship yet, but I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that it doesn't act as a vehicle between levels that simplifies things too much. One could argue that quick and easy traversal is strictly superior and that making the player hoof it between places without some form of fast travel is nothing more than padding, but that's a whole game design theory can of worms that I just ain't gonna open right now. Basically, I want to walk into a Taco Bell and find a level. That's all I'm saying. I could probably babble on about Super Mario Odyssey for another hour, but I'll stop myself here. But to put it into perspective just how excited I am to play it, here's a list for you. Pikmin 3, Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey. This game is near the tippy-most top of the list of my most anticipated Nintendo games of the last, 6 years? There are plenty of games I'm eager to play at any given time, but the older I get, the less often companies reveal games that I'm just like, I need that. But Odyssey is one of those games, and I didn't even feel that way about Galaxy, and that game always looked amazing. I meant it when I said that I haven't felt this way about a Mario game since I was a kid. For a long time now, Mario and I have had a good, solid relationship. His 3D outings are a jolly good source of fun, even if I'm considerably less into his 2D ones. But now I feel like I'm stepping back into my old status as a huge Mario fan. It's like one of my best friends from grade school has moved back into town, and he's just as cool as I remember him. I know at this point I'm hyping the game up so much that I can't possibly be satisfied with what I actually get, but I don't even care. I haven't been this stoked on a Mario game in ages, and it feels good. Well, I can't be the only one here. Are you as excited as I am? Are you perhaps lamenting the shift away from a linear Mario? I still can't believe I am saying these words. In fact, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go and just keep pinching myself until November just to make sure. Ow. Ow. Ow! Okay, maybe less pinching.